law, the town may audio or video record this meeting. Any person intending to do so, either audio or video record this open session, is required to inform the chair. Please do so at this time. Anybody planning on recording either audio or video this evening? No? All right. We're going to move on from that, and we will make plenty of time for public comment. I know that is listed first and then to the minutes, but for the sake of Dan Pelletier from our wastewater, we are going to start with a quick update from Kerry, and then we are going to move on to a discussion with Dan regarding the runoff.
So if you want to open the meeting for old and unfinished business for the 606.
Okay. We are going to officially then open old and unfinished business, continued from September 16th. Request for approval for 606 Route 28, allowing the construction of the septic system on the property having a design flow greater than 2,000 gallons per day.
So I just wanted to start off with just a little clarity for the application. Under our 1211 regulation, which is the regulation that's brought this project in front of the board, there's a little, I think, confusion because the term variance is used in this regulation in a non-traditional sense. So we are here because the system is sized over 2,000 gallons per day. There's nothing in the regulation that states it can't be 2,000 gallons per day or greater. It just gives the Board of Health the opportunity to review these projects that are substantially sized so they can take a look at all of the information and potential environmental impacts. So there's no relief from Title V that's being sought here, or no relief from any Board of Health regulations. It's just a public hearing that the board can get more information on the system, the public as well. That being said, we do have Dan Pelletier here, our consultant from the wastewater department. He is here to speak a little bit on our watershed permits and the impact of the nitrogen on our permitting process. So I would like to start the meeting, because we only have him until 7 o'clock, with that portion. We'll allow the board to ask Dan of any questions and the public to ask any questions, limiting it to the 7 o'clock time slot. And then from there, we'll allow the applicant to do their presentation and open the public hearing up to the more comments. So Dan, if you want to just give a little information on how these projects impact our watershed permits.
Yeah, of course. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can.
All right, great. So I know you had included in the board's packet tonight the email that I sent over.
Can that be a little louder?
Yeah, I'll try to speak. Is this a little bit better?
I think Matt's working on it too.
All right, so I had sent over an email with some information on, a summary of potential impacts to the watershed permit and future flow neutral bylaw. Ultimately, to summarize that for the board and audience in attendance, the watershed permit regulations that went into effect a year and a half ago, the town is in compliance with those regulations. The town will maintain compliance due to the fact that it has submitted a notice of intent to file for a watershed permit, and the town has a couple of years to complete that process. Ultimately, beyond what I had submitted in the email, I was able to connect with DEP as to the potential impacts to the flow neutral bylaw with regard to the increase in flow to the property. And they said although flow is used in a general sense to quantify the nutrient loading in a watershed, in the case of 606 Route 28, the fact that there's an IA treatment proposed would also be a factor in that evaluation. So although we're looking at an increase of 5,000 gallons per day roughly, it wouldn't necessarily equate to that when being evaluated under the flow neutral bylaw. So ultimately, the decisions made tonight will not have any material effect on the town's compliance with the watershed permit regulations today or in the future.
Do you have any questions for Dan?
I guess, when doing the reading, there was the question of it being in the Witchmere watershed and then versus the groundwater runoff going into the sound. We get, from the reading, I know we are operating with that it's going into the Witchmere watershed. And I just want to get some clarification on that, if you have that for us, Dan.
Yeah, so I did look at the Witchmere watershed maps in preparation for this meeting, and the parcel it's really on the boundary of the Witchmere watershed. It would be, I would argue, included in it. However, I would just caution using the watershed line on a map as a definitive red line in the sand, as those can fluctuate with groundwater levels, precipitation, and other things similar to Title V boundaries or water boundaries and other things of that nature.
Generally then, Dan, would it be safe to say that some of this runoff, this watershed from this area is probably going to be a little bit of this, a little bit of that? Some's probably going to go to Nantucket, some to Witchmere?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to speak definitively. I mean, to objectively look at the map, for Witchmere Harbor, the parcel is right on the edge of it. Without some intense groundwater modeling and things of that nature that would be, very, very extensive. I would say that there is a portion of the flow that will stem from this property that will impact Witchmere Harbor. And there's this portion of it that will likely migrate to Nantucket Sound. How that, the effluent from the treatment system ultimately dilutes in the groundwater and migrates, to Nantucket Sound and Witchmere Harbor, I would argue probably isn't a hard science that someone could pinpoint.
And that lines up with the census that we got from the Cape Cod Commission as well, that there wasn't a definitive answer to that without doing further, deeper dives. So how we presented it to the board was the assumption that it would all go into Witchmere watershed because we want to plan for the worst case, which that would be, but there is the potential still for some of this to be diluted out to Nantucket. We just don't know that for certain.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions for Dan from the board?
Dan, this is Sharon Flieger. I do have some questions, more or less for clarification. There were some comments made about last meeting that the timeline of when the sewering might go through, or when would it go through down there on 28. And I know there's a lot of moving parts on that, our CWMP, the wastewater treatment. Can you give us, at least from your opinion right now, since we don't have any definitive information, where we stand with that? Because some of the people felt that it was going to be too long till the sewering would go through there, and the concern was that it would impact the environment. So can you address, at least from your knowledge standpoint, where we stand with that?
Yes, absolutely. Without making any commitments on behalf of the Select Board, the draft CWMP phasing map that is on the town's website, on the wastewater information tab, if you go down and scroll down about 3/4 of the way down, the map is available to the public. Witchmere Harbor is currently proposed to be in Phase 7, which is slated for 2041 to 2044.
Long time.
20 years versus the 40 years that was.
20 versus the 40 years, yeah. Am I?
Yeah, I would say we're 15, 16 years out.
16 years out, okay. During that time frame, with what they're looking at as far as what could be flow down there to either Nantucket or to the Witchmere Harbor. How much of an impact on the environment, in your opinion, do you see with that?
So I will say I'm not a Title V and an IA expert, so I'll just preface with that. But in looking at the packet information, the concentration of nitrogen in the effluent stream is increasing, I believe, from, I want to say, around 8 parts per million to somewhere in 13 to 14. I guess how that compares to the entire watershed, I would say, is probably negligible, in comparison to everything that contributes to Witchmere Harbor. But I don't want to say that as a fact and be held to it, I guess.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's, I look at it and the situation that you're in, I mean, ultimately it appears from the application that what's been proposed is the best available nitrogen reducing technology that exists, right? So absent a sewer collection system available at the property, I would say that the proposed system would provide for the best quality effluent as could be achieved from that property. If they were under 2,000 gallons per day and not using an IA system, which they would not be required to, in the current regulatory framework, that could net a larger nutrient load to Witchmere Harbor, right? So I don't necessarily want to speak to the specific impacts of this specific, case, more so compare it to, what could be constructed, under Title V without requiring a, variance, so to speak.
Okay. All right. The only thing I would like to say to the public that's out here, as me sitting here on the board, my obligation here is to make a decision based on the state and local regulations, whether or not what has been presented to us by the company or the people that want to do this, whether or not they fit into our regulations. Not so much whether I personally would want it or I don't want it. That's not for me to decide, and it's not what's being decided here. What's going to be decided here is does the information that we've been given, does it fit within our Title V? And that's what we have to make our decision based on, at least what I'm going to make my decision based on. And that's all I have to say. Do you have any questions?
No, right now.
No. All right.
We got Dan for about 14 more minutes if you.
All right. I would like to open up Dan's time and knowledge. If the public has any questions for Dan, I would ask you to please come up and approach the stand in the microphone.
Hi, Bob Nickerson. I went through a lot of these numbers, and what I'm seeing here is that there's about a 28% reduction based on this system. So I'm not understanding how Dan is saying that we're going to have this significant reduction if we didn't have a system or we did have a system. So I have all the numbers that you all have, and I've crunched a bunch of information on this. The other thing I want to point out that is if we, first off, one of your letters said it, we're going to assume it goes to Witchmere, and now all of a sudden, based on Dan's comment, it's going to be split on Witchmere, and his comment was there might be some going in there, but it's not a big deal. If it all went to Witchmere, and based on their system being active, we're talking about 703 pounds annually. That means about 7 tons over a period of 20 years into Witchmere. So I think just being so casual about this is totally unfair
we're making our decision based on the assumption that it's all going to flow into Witchmere. If you
Okay,
didn't
well,
catch that on, if,
all right.
we asked him a question.
Okay.
But we also clarified that our decision will be based on the assumption that it will all flow into Witchmere.
Okay.
So if that's your question, I hope that answers it.
Well, I just want to be sure that you understand the numbers that are going to happen. Their change, I agree, is 28% less, but it's only 28%. It's not 50%, it's not 75% less. Thank you.
Dan, can you comment to any of that?
I mean, I certainly haven't looked at the calculations or run a comparison to the effect of the speaker. So I guess I would just echo the chair's statement that this, application should be considered where the parcel resides within the watershed, as if everything is going to go there.
Okay.
Any other questions for Dan from the public? No? All right.
Any from the applicant?
If you would like to come forward, at this time, we will hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep. I'll hang on for the next 10, just in case.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Marion Rose from Singer & Singer in Dennisport, here on behalf of the applicant. Before we start, can you hear me?
No,
Okay, let's get a little closer. How's it working now?
that's better.
Okay,
That's better.
great. Thank you. Okay, for the record, I'm Marion Rose from Singer & Singer in Dennisport, here on behalf of the applicant.
Can't hear you.
I'd like to take a moment to introduce the team first. To my right is Garrett Horsfell. He's the engineer on the project. And behind me, we have, I'm a little bit afraid to turn around and not speak into the microphone, but we also have Rob DeMarco, who's the applicant and a partner for SSH Board, Russ Dean, who's the architect on the project and a partner at Campanelli, and Jeff Wyman, who's the project manager for the project. After I do the introductions, Brian Gation, who's the other engineer who actually designed the septic system, will take my place at the table. Also online are Mike Moreau. He's the distributor for the FAST project. He would be able to answer any questions. There were questions that came up last time about the maintenance and the testing and the reporting. And so we all have done some investigation on that and confirmed what happens, but he can speak to that directly, or I can speak to that as well. Kim Beelan is also online. She is our appellate counsel. She is here to monitor the process. Thank you. I want to begin tonight just to confirm that the plans as proposed are the same plans that Brian submitted back in July when this process first started. What is different is the relief we're asking for. We clarified after the last hearing, it is not a variance. What we're asking for is a hearing and a review of the plans presented. We did have some updates, questions that you all asked at the last meeting, and we have some responses to those, and those are in our package. So I'd like to just briefly say what those are, and then Brian and Garrett will go through with the slide program to show you in more detail. There was a question about the lawn size, and frankly, our number was wrong. And so we've just checked that number. You'll see in the slides that what the number is. We've adjusted the application to show that number. It actually is a smaller lawn number, and that's significant in that lawn is an area where nitrogen is produced because people assume you're going to use fertilizer. And so the numbers from the last application to now, the revised application, have actually gone down.
Okay.
Also, will be mentioned when we're talking about the lawn in a little more detail, decided to make a change on the specific lawn used. It will be something like Player's Choice, which is actually used at Witchmere. It's a lawn that's used in heavy traffic areas. It actually has clover in it, which actually provides nitrogen naturally, so it doesn't need any fertilizer. And it's low rain, so we're trying to do what we can around the edges. Also agreed to, as a condition, should you so wish, adopt the Massachusetts Estuaries Program's guidelines on fertilizer application. Those are shown in the Harwich website. We're also going to be providing watershed and groundwater maps. We reached out with Carrie to the Cape Cod Commission, and those maps came from the Cape Cod Commission. In addition, there's more information about the separation between the septic system and groundwater. And I think the chair really preferred for there to be a double, to address the possibility of an electricity loss. And so we're doing that in two different ways. The system as provided has tanks that provide for a 24-hour hold. And then in addition to that, those will still be there, but in addition to that, there will be a generator. And finally, I think Carrie had a question. We've provided the information that this system, the FAST system, is provisionally approved for this size system, the 2,000 to 10,000 gallon system, and we provided that information directly from the state. We go to the first slide. Actually, we'll go to the second slide, which is entitled Compliance to DEP Title V and Town of Harwich Board of Health Regulations. It was really helpful to have Dan Pelliter's email to Carrie, and that's part of your package. He confirmed that under the current standards, Title V is how this project should be reviewed. And this project complies with Mass DEP Title V regulations. It also complies with we believe with the Board of Health regulations for Harwich. Indeed, it exceeds what's required because we provide IA technology. With that, I'd like to hand the program over to Garrett and cede my place.
Hi, thank you again for the record. Garrett Horsfall with Kelly Engineering Group. I'm the civil site engineer for the project. Jeff, if you could, next slide. Thank you very much. So just to clarify, Marion did a good job, high level, of what has been done since the last time we were before you and what has been now presented in the packets in front of you tonight for consideration. This just helps to clarify and gives the board more clarity on how the nitrogen calcs were developed. All of the green area shown on the attached exhibit represents the lawn area. There's about 40,900 square feet of pavement and about 1,868 square feet of roof associated with the existing Sunday school roof here. So just the next slide, please. This is just the proposed slide, again, very similar to what we just previously We're viewing the proposed lawn areas in green, and majority of the buffer around the site will remain in its natural vegetated state. Again, the lawn proposed would be in this green area as shown here before you. I do want to note that the areas overall, in terms of site coverages, we do drastically reduce the amount of impervious paved coverage on the site by about 17,000 square feet, and there's an increase of roof by about 20,000 square feet and change. So in terms of water quality, I know this is more of a nitrogen and related septic discussion, but in terms of water quality in that aspect, I think that's important to consider as well. This is clean runoff compared to a lot of paved surfaces that were not properly treated previously. So just to go to the next slide. So in terms of nitrogen removal, what the applicant has, committed to proactively, like we said before, and we believe nitrogen removal is not required by the active watershed permit as filed with DEP. However, we're proactively committed to providing the nitrogen removal measures in the forms of microfast IA system, the organic fertilizers committed before, the compliance with the fertilizer application policies as well, and the grass measures that would be implemented, the player's best that was previously discussed. And then just about the stormwater a little bit further, the existing system is a very outdated system. It's a series of leaching basins with no proper treatment associated with that. So any of the existing runoff paved surfaces will leach into the ground without any proper treatment. What we have proposed is a fully compliant modern stormwater system that will properly treat and capture the runoff prior to recharge into the ground, and that'll all be recharged on site as it does today. So there's a significant improvement in terms of water quality as well on the site. So just to break down the nitrogen calculations and sort of tabulize them, before you today on the existing is 8.4 parts per million from the site. The proposal will have 14.7, about a 6.3 part per million increase over the existing conditions. However, we do want to clarify that the previously submitted calculations had a 7.1 differential, so we've knocked about 0.8 parts per million down as part of the revised calculations that have been submitted. So this is watershed maps, and Dan had spoken to these previously. I just want to add some color to his comments before, as well as some visuals. We've highlighted the Whitmere Harbor watershed as sort of that teardrop around the harbor. The site is in the purple box, and the watershed line, as Dan said, essentially bisects, and as we talked to the Cape Cod Commission, it could be 20 feet this way or that way in relation to the site. But more importantly, I think the groundwater contours are left to right on the screen. The groundwater traveling perpendicularly towards Nantucket Sound and Whitmere Harbor, as well, as we've agreed upon the 50-50 split, again with Dan, as well as the Cape Cod Commission.
We're operating with everything going to Whitmere. Let's not bring up 50-50 anymore. It is a point, but we are operating that it's all going into Whitmere.
Understood. So just to clarify the groundwater map, we did add some arrows on here, but just to add some color to that. And the next sheet. So just to go to the groundwater, we have been monitoring the groundwater. It began as early as March with test pits that were performed for the system. It has been monitored over the past several months multiple times. We have established a elevation about 4.3, which is about 8 feet separation, and that's with a seasonal high adjustment as calculated by the Cape Cod Commission. We did review that with them a couple weeks ago as well, and they were in agreement with those calculations, as well as the Board of Health agent here as well. And just to generator comment, the proposed generator is roughly shown here on the back side of one of the retaining walls in terms of backup power provided. And the last item, which I think there were some questions about last hearing, was relative to the current approval status of the microfast system. It is approved on the Mass DEP website, so we did add some documentation as well into the packet associated with that. And we're glad to answer any further questions the board may have with the public.
Okay. Couple things I wanted to touch base on, and Carrie, please, at any point, step in or speak up, because I am relatively new at this still, at least in this position. Specifically, you had mentioned the estuary fertilization, and you were willing to follow those regulations. And in the verbiage in the packet, and I took a quick, at least scan, double through, says organic. Carrie, can you confirm that those are the same thing? Because and maybe you're not required to follow an estuary regulation as far as fertilizer goes, but if you are willing to, I would very much like to see that happen. I think the more regulation we can have on that, the better. Is that where it says organic fertilizer? Is that the estuary regulations, or are there higher regulations for fertilizer that could be met?
I'm not familiar with a estuary regulation for fertilizer. I know that the Board of Health adopted a few years ago a fertilizer policy, but is that through MDR or what?
There are guidelines that are on the Harwich website.
So
for
those are our
fertilizer,
guidelines
and
for
so
the-
we'd adopt those.
Okay, yeah, so it's referencing our guidelines that we set a
Okay.
few years ago.
And
I
those-
wasn't, the estuary piece of it, I wasn't.
That's why I was, well, specific
Overly
verbiage I went
familiar
through
with.
and looked, and I didn't see, so I
Been a
wanted
while
to
since I
clarify.
had to look at the fertilizer
Okay.
stuff. My apologies.
And then the generator was a big thing for me. Thank you for, bringing that up. With those in place, and the other, I understand you guys are gonna, build this, sell off the portions. I don't know how management of this facility would happen down the road. Part of, at least from my reading, the requirement for us approving this is that you need to prove to us that this isn't going to affect everything negatively. Regardless of, and you're surpassing the nitrogen, appreciate that. You've made any adjustments that we have asked you to do thus far. I do have concerns over how is the generator being there, the responsibility for that? How is the regulation of the fertilizer going to be passed down through ownership to make sure that that is maintained?
So to speak to both of those, pardon me, to speak to both of those would be in the condo docs and the regulating documents for the condominium. And so that would be a condition of the permit if we're talking about the fertilizer requirements. And so that would be something that the condominium board would contract out for, would have to be done. And then in terms of the generator, that would be part of, just as other things are maintained
There
in
would
the
be a
condominium.
board of the condominium.
Yes,
And would that be
yes.
made of, residents who are there? Like, I want to know, I guess I want assurances that this is going to be passed down, and there are going to be people monitoring this. That is a,
Certainly.
yeah, please.
So,
If you could just get up to either the podium, and introduce yourself. Yep.
Rob DeMarco, 606 Main Street. So to speak to those concerns, because those are valid concerns, we want to make sure that the work we're doing today is followed in the future, and that's a legitimate request. So I think we could put it in the conditions, as Marion said. We're going to enter into a service contract for the generator, and we can, as part of a condition, if you want us to show that we have a valid service contract on the generator, you need those. So we're going to do that anyway, and I have no problem adhering to some standard that we need to show you guys that we have a valid service contract for the generator, so you know it'll work in the case of an emergency. Same thing with the fertilizer. If you want to hold us to this standard, that we'll show you receipts that we purchased the fertilizer that adheres to your regulations on an annual basis. If you guys want us to show that to you, we are willing to do that. And we'll put that in the condo docs. And on an annual basis, we'll come down and say, hey, this is the fertilizer we purchased. This is the fertilizer we're going to use.
appreciate that.
Okay.
If you're willing to do that, great, thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
And just to re-reference, it's a policy, not a regulation.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
No.
No. I do want to give the public another chance to speak. I understand I see a lot of the same faces that were here last month. So please, if you have something new that you want to bring up or come and address, please do so. If you want to reiterate something that you said last month, please keep it brief. Gentleman was up, right, he's coming. No, coming from all the way in the back, come on.
Good evening. Thank you for your continued dedication to protecting the residents of Harwich. It's greatly appreciated. I want to begin by apologizing for the lack of clarity. I was here last time. In my previous comments at the last meeting concerning this project, and I hope to clarify my position here. And just allow me just a moment here. At the 2020 town meeting, the planning board presented a proposal requiring any new multifamily project must meet specific criteria. These criteria are suitability for the neighborhood site, desirability for the neighborhood, and appropriateness for the site. It is important to note that this project does not meet any of those conditions. And we presented, and this was presented to the town meeting members, and it does not reflect the intent of the bylaw. The town meeting voted for those particular conditions. It was presented by the town planner at the time, and it went to town vote. Okay, but it's important.
But again, we are here to discuss
But
the sewer system.
I
It has-
understand, but this is,
That is irrelevant to what we are discussing this
well,
evening.
I would, okay, let
It
me
is.
continue. I don't know how you could separate those conditions. Anyway, given the project does not satisfy the established requirements, it is unclear why we're reviewing it further. However, since we are here, it is necessary to discuss and provide additional evidence demonstrating that this project is not suitable for the site. Underground parking. There's been ongoing debate about the proposal to
So
include...
again, underground parking has nothing to do with septic runoff. Let's keep it on point here.
It's about public health.
No, it's not.
Well, let me finish, and then you can criticize what I'm saying.
But you know what? You're not sticking to what he's asking, is,
I'm moving to that. I assure you, I am moving to that.
Let's get there faster.
Okay. So underground parking, potentially first of its kind in town, initially meeting request, at the very first meeting, requested a cross-section of proposed underground facility. None was provided. And I'm not sure if this is available today. The reason this matters, because the facility is oversized and requires extraordinary measures to accommodate automobiles. If a cross-section were available, it would clearly reveal a containment structure under the slab a containment structure below the garage floor, potentially in groundwater for gasoline leaks, as well as unknown materials related to EV failures and contaminated fluids. You talked about this going into Wishmere Harbor. This goes into Wishmere Harbor. Recent construction of the port showed groundwater present at the footing elevation. That's the new building that's going in. The board must recognize that any leak in this structure could move laterally in multiple directions. Our engineers have said that, including Wishmere Harbor and Bank Street Beach, and contaminate the groundwater. This is a public health issue. This makes this project unsuitable for the site. That language from that meeting. We must also address the request for variance and sewage treatment.
Not a variance, again. It's not a variance.
Okay, it's,
Everything above 2,000 has to come to us. It's not a variance.
I will remove the word variance. This system would involve underground tanks, massive storage capacities, pumps, blowers, controls. This raises a significant concern about what could potentially go wrong. Project management, and you just mentioned that. The facility would be managed by volunteer board members who may reside in port, maybe part-time owners, part-time residents, full-time residents somewhere else. This raises further concerns about adequate management and oversight, which is not desirable for this particular neighborhood. Now, you have a concern about how this is going to be managed. At my last meeting, I was on 2 boards, president of 2 condominium boards. It's important. Your questions are important.
I know, and they've answered my questions. The fact that you were on 2 boards before, honestly, sir.
Condo
doesn't matter.
docs don't mean a thing. They are documents.
Sir, you've been up here for a while and have yet to bring up one thing that I would consider appropriate for this meeting.
Really?
Really?
So there's substantial evidence. Let me just maybe go aside. So there's been substantial evidence of failed condominium projects on coastal areas.
Nothing to do.
Not with this project. Sir,
You're projecting
if you
ahead
can't
of
bring us
time
something definitive, please sit
what
down.
might be. What are you addressing as far as Title V?
With this specific project.
With this project
What is this
now.
project?
Now,
This-
not what could happen down the road.
But isn't that what we're
No,
concerned
no,
about?
no, we're not.
We're not concerned about
No,
the future?
no, no.
We are. That's why I've asked them to come with the generator and have a plan.
In that respect,
that's-
what we can deal with here on this board is, do they meet the laws and regulations on Title V? Not what could happen down the road with the condominium contract. That has got nothing to do with the Board of Health. Tell me what your issues are with Title V.
Well, I think I'm not sure that I can address
That's the
specific
issue,
question.
is what I'm saying, that doesn't belong here. It does not belong here at the Board of Health.
We're not concerned about water contamination?
Well, you haven't addressed that, other than saying it could be, it could happen. A lot of things could happen, all right? We have to deal with what we have in front of us.
Well, I think let me go back to my first statement then. That what we have in front of us is a project that defies what the town voted on.
That doesn't have anything to do
That's
with
not
this.
under our purview.
under-
We can't affect
That's
that.
the planning board. And when
Planning
it
board,
gets to the
wrong
planning board,
place.
it has to be
Now, your
presented
comment
there.
about an EV leak or something going on in the basement, there's probably more likely of a chance that there's going to be a car accident right out front of there and something leaks and it drains off. So that's a what if, that's really not.
You're not concerned that there's a containment system under the slab to
No.
capture gasoline that's sitting in groundwater because of where it is, that could contaminate Wishmere Harbor?
It could be. You're saying it could.
Well, all of these
No,
things could happen.
no, we can't. When you're going to plan something, are you going to say, well, this could happen, or that could happen, or the other thing could happen? That's not what we here at the Board of Health are supposed to be deciding on. That goes to the planning board.
And
I understood.
those concrete tanks are watertight, so they're
I
in there
understand.
watertight. And if there's a system in place to collect that type of potential spillage, I think that's better than not having it at all, which isn't a requirement for residential properties. It is better that they have a
No, I'm
tank
not
down there.
disagreeing with it. I'm not disagreeing that the technology is better. My concern is that I think we're missing the overall arching concern that this project is not appropriate, not suitable.
But
and
that's
it's
the
Board of Health.
planning board.
That's planning board.
Yes, I understand.
That's your feeling. That's your feeling. Maybe somebody else has a feeling that is great. The feelings are not what we have to make our decision on here.
So earlier, your engineer mentioned that the runoff could go to Wishmere Harbor, could go to Nantucket Sound.
And we're
And we're
assuming,
operating that it's all going to Witchmere Harbor.
So you're
That is our assumption, that is how we are going to make our
So
decision.
that's your assumption. So
And-
it's
and
not
based-
definitive,
No.
right?
And based
I'm-
on
I
what
have
he
to be
said, when I
definitive.
ask him, you can't be definitive on things because you don't know what's going to happen.
I understand.
And asking Dan, and I did ask him, what is a likely impact if it all goes to Witchmere Harbor? And he thought it was negligible. Now, that's his opinion.
Yeah.
All right? His opinion is as good as yours, if not better. He's the engineer.
I understand.
All right.
But you're willing to accept
It's
the
still
variance.
irrelevant. That is irrelevant to Title V. I think that's where the people are missing the point here. That's not what, here on this board, we have to make our decision is, do what they present fit within the state and local, meaning Harwich, our regulations and guidelines? And it does.
It exceeds them
That's what we
by a
have to base.
significant margin.
That's what we have to vote on. Not like, well, he would like it and I don't, or he doesn't and I do. That's not what we're here to decide. We're here to decide is the information they presented, does it comply with Title V? Can you give me a reason that it doesn't?
I cannot.
Okay.
I cannot.
All right.
I can express my concerns.
And that doesn't belong here. That belongs at the planning board.
yeah, I think the appropriateness of the project based in scope of feel or character of the town of Harwich is, that needs to be presented to the planning board. Not saying that your concerns or thoughts are invalid, it's just not the appropriate platform for those concerns to be raised.
Sincerely, when I speak to the potential contamination of groundwater and from underground gasoline storage going to Wishmere Harbor, that's not a Board of Health issue.
Potential contamination is a Board of Health issue, but if there's a system in place to collect that and store it in a watertight container underground, that potential is unlikely that they're going to have some kind of seepage, and it would be, I think, over a serious amount of time that those concrete tanks become compromised.
I'm not familiar with the technology. I guess my final comment is that if we contaminate the beaches and the harbors and the groundwater, we're no longer a desirable site.
And is this the only project that could do that?
No, ma'am.
No.
No, ma'am. Absolutely.
Including some of the homes and the gas stations and eating establishments.
Absolutely.
It could all possibly happen. And you can't base on moving ahead or doing something based on what might happen when they've gone out of their way to do as much as they can to contain any possible leakage.
But the very systems that they've created are on a basis of what could happen to prevent those things from happening.
Right, and they've gone above and beyond to
And
have those
what
systems
we know
in
today,
place.
yes, what we know, that's
And
based
that's
on
all
your
we can
regulations.
go on.
We can't demand that, we're asking them for that, and they are coming forward with it.
I understand.
Including things that we've asked for them as of tonight,
Yeah.
that we haven't put in finalization, but, the fact that I asked this evening about the generator and the fertilizer, and what can we do to make sure that those are passed on, and there wasn't any hesitation, there was a definitive answer. We'll bring you the fertilization records every year. We'll bring you this. Anything that we've asked them for,
I understand.
they have complied
So,
to,
but would
and
you
they've
also-
exceeded all regulations. Unless you have something to add that is in relation to why this does not meet Title V, please sit down.
Oh, Bob Cantadosa, 89 Bank.
It is still open for public comment. Does anybody else have any other questions or concerns?
Barbara Nickerson, Route 28. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. If you remember, my comments last month centered on the nitrogen loading that would be entering Witchmere Harbor. talked about all the issues, where it was coming, the size of the watershed, et cetera, and the fact that septic systems account for 83% of the controllable loading in the watershed, and we're just going to be adding more to it. The report was published in 2016. It's nearly 10 years later, and we haven't begun to decrease the septic flows to the harbor. And now they're proposing to add 6,600 gallons per day, 365 days per year to the mix. I'm not sure, what are we thinking? Even though the proposed IA system is better than a Title V, no argument there, it's still going to be discharging nitrogen into the groundwater and therefore into Richmond Harbor. So we're talking, 800 gallons per day for the existing Sunday school for 4 months versus 6,600 gallons per day for 12 months per year. And yes, I appreciate the fact that we are talking about just going to Witchmere, because I do believe that's where the groundwater is going anyhow. But I do have a few questions, if I can ask of the applicant. I guess if somebody could tell me what is clean runoff? That's a new one.
Respond now? Sure. So clean runoff is technically considered roof runoff. It does not have to be treated prior to being recharged into the ground.
So all the other stormwater from the impervious layers where's that going?
So all of the impervious surfaces on the site have either a deep sump catch basin and a water quality device pre-treatment component to meet DEP metrics prior to subsurface recharge. And then after that, they go to the subsurface recharge system and into the ground where they're further treated as well.
Okay, so none of the water is going to be leaving the site?
Correct. It's all recharged as it is today.
Okay, good, thank you. I guess my other question is that you talked about it a little bit on one of your slides, as far as that the existing conditions changed from July to now. I was just wondering, what happened. Sorry, I was the one that asked the question last time, as far as the numbers just were kind of funky to me, and I don't have a current GIS license since I retired, so I just couldn't change. I just don't understand. There's a pretty significant number of change between the July calcs and current.
Were you talking about the grass?
Pardon me?
Were you talking about, you were talking about the lawn the other, is that,
Yeah,
is that
yeah.
what you're referring to?
Yes,
All
sorry.
right, all right,
Sorry.
all right, I just,
Yes.
okay.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Yurgation, professional engineer with BSC Group. Yeah, and I'll own that. There's a lot of moving parts here. Garrett was doing all the civil design. I was doing the septic design, and we needed to talk more, and maybe that was on me.
Okay.
Not reaching out to make sure our numbers were in sync.
Okay, thank
But
you.
they are 100% now.
Okay, now, good. The other question I had was, I didn't quite understand. July we had, and I know you said to ignore them, but, and then in October you presented both 2.5 persons per bedroom versus 2 persons per bedroom. Can somebody clarify that? Tell me how that works? Have we changed bodies?
Sure, we don't. That's just part of the methodology that the Cape Cod Commission uses. It's in Technical Bulletin 92001 for calculating nitrogen loading from sites. Title V says that there's 2 people per bedroom, and the state says that there's 2.5 people per household. So the calculations are done both ways, and an average is taken, and that's how the methodology works.
Okay, and I guess for the people building and everything, you're saying that you're going to deed restrict to 2 people per bedroom or something? Did I read something of that?
No, there's no
Okay.
deed restriction.
So how do we deal with the fact that right now when we have our verbos and everything else, we've got, 3-bedroom house and we have 12 people there? We're going to allow some rentals, right? So, how do we know we're not going to be
Yeah, I don't-
increasing all of our loads?
I don't know if somebody else wants
I
to
know
take that. It's not really a Board of Health issue, I guess, would be my answer to that.
Well, it is if we have more people than we're allowed to have, isn't it?
That's no different than somebody in a single home doing
Right,
the
which
same
is
thing.
wrong, right.
It's wrong, all right? And we can't control that any more than we can control this.
Okay.
And we can't base decisions on what might be.
All right. So I guess the other thing is that I didn't understand how deep the discharge was going to be from the system, at what level it's going to be. You know, are we talking 8 foot down, 12 foot down, 5 foot down?
Can you clarify, ma'am? Are you talking about the
The discharge
septic
from
system?
the septic system, correct, right.
How far is the bottom of the leaching field, below ground or above groundwater?
Right, before it starts moving, right, so what is it, did I just see it's like 5 foot above groundwater?
No, so 5 feet is the requirement. We're providing 8 feet. So we're actually providing an extra 60% more. And that's really important because that's how you get all your treatment and your nitrogen removal is through the soil. So we're providing an extra 60%. So I would submit to you that our calculations are even conservative.
Okay, thank you. Good, okay.
For the record, these are great questions. These are exactly the types of questions that I want to make sure the public has a
No,
chance to
I want
ask.
to make sure I don't screw up, that's
No,
why.
you're doing great. Thank you.
A little bit longer here, guys, sorry. Okay, so stormwater is going to be there, so that's not going to be there, okay. I guess I'm going to wrap up because some of I appreciate the stormwater being managed on site, trust me, because living across the street with all that water running off is not fun at all. I guess lastly, I know, I and the other folks here, we oppose the project as currently proposed, but we appreciate the opportunity to air our concerns and about the impact to our town, specifically to Witchmere. We live here. Most of the people in this room, we live here. We boat there, we sail there, we fish there. And I know I'm pretty upset that Witchmere is having all these water quality issues currently, let alone they're going to have some additional ones now. And I guess 20 years out, is that what Dan said, 25 years out? I mean, a lot of us are going to be pushing up daisies at that point. We're not going to get to see the sewer come in, which we had all hoped we were going to be in the first round, to be perfectly honest, to help clean it up and stuff. But, several years ago, my husband and I were talking with Tom Leach, our former harbor master, and our name finally came up on the mooring list after 13 years. And we were trying to decide whether or not we should take the mooring or not. We didn't have a sailboat at that point. And I said, well, maybe we should pass it, Tom. And he goes, don't. He goes, this is the most attractive, most photographed, number 1 or 2 harbor on the Cape. He goes, do not give up any kind of space, because it truly is. You've got Witchmere on your Facebook page for the health department and stuff. So I'm just hopeful that we can at least help reduce some of this nitrogen loading that's going in, because I'm not sure that this project is going to help us achieve that goal. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Can I just say one thing? It may not reduce it, but I don't think it's going to contribute anything significantly.
Jim Hudson, 52 Ridgeport Drive, longtime resident. My question is, we're 20 years away from sewage facilities between the applicant and Witchmere Harbor, apparently. In that period of time, my question is, what about the increased effluent that's going forth now, or will be going forth, even if it's really clean? Won't it affect other systems along the way? Pick up the toxins from other sewage systems that are, houses or whatever? How do we know the effect? Dan says it's negligible. I question that. I don't know what the basis of his thinking is on that. I've seen a deterioration in Witchmere Harbor myself. It's, you can see that the environmental health of the harbor is going down the last 20 years. Or I've actually been here 70 went to sailing school in 1949. So I've seen it's gone down. And I'm concerned in the next 20 years, what about other contaminants? Cadmium chloride, yeah. 1 part per million gets down there? Wow. So I question whether there's an adequate study that's been done on that. Now, it could be within the nitrogen limits of Title V. That's good. And I'm glad to see that, but there's still a heck of a lot of effluent. It's 5,000 or 2 million gallons a year. 1 part per million of some other toxin that gets caught from a...
And that, we can't determine what's going to happen in the future, all right? Like I said, we are dealing with the information we have now and what they
You know
are
how many
presenting.
gallons are going to be released? And do you know the effect of that increase in the...
Do you?
I'm not... Mrs. Nickerson could maybe answer that. She's
Is there an
environmental
engineer here that
scientist.
can speak to that?
Right. I'm just asking the question. We're all on the same side here. I'm not trying to be adverse.
We are. But
an
I don't
adversary.
think sometimes that people
I'm
realize.
concerned about the health of everything.
You're
I mean, I live
point
here.
of a 1 part per million cadmium. Where's that coming from? How are you assuming that some kind of runoff would pick up something else that's not there?
You don't even know if it's
I mean,
there.
that's again. I mean, that
Well, I
comes
think
back
that,
to
you know,
like,
have
is
we-
there
have we
going
got
to
a
be a
study
leak
of how much-
some car?
How much
or could have a crash out front? I
of
mean,
these
that's-
toxins are in Witchmere Harbor now?
What does that have to do with the project going forward?
Well, don't you think it's going to increase it?
From what, and I'm going by what Dan's saying, it would be negligible.
I think he's off base myself. That's my opinion.
Well, all right, and that
I
can be
wish you
your
would
opinion,
consider
but I'll
that
tell you
as
what.
responsible citizens.
Well, okay, that's your opinion,
Right.
and we're all,
I'm an engineer also.
all right.
And I think Dan's comment was based on the CWMP and that watershed permit having some already built into it.
Yeah.
So that, when they made the plans, they knew that future projects were going to happen. So I think that's
What that was built
the
in.
comment of it being negligible is that it's not, we had planned for this kind of build-out, not necessarily every project to this scale, but there is some build-out planned in our watershed permits. So I don't want to speak on behalf of Dan, but
Yeah, and yeah, he left at 7. Yeah.
and I think that was in reference more to the impact of the watershed permits.
Hello, Michael Hershey, Woodland Road, Harwich Port. One question. You say that the amount of effluent that comes from this building is determined by bedrooms or by people?
Again, there's a certain number of people per bedroom that we are required to make judgments on. Again, there's houses in Harwich Port that are they're 2-bedroom and have 12 people living in it. We can't control that.
Well, this is a rule made by the state or made by the town? The rule we're trying to abide by now, today.
So the flow count is based on bedrooms, and Title V assumes
Is Title V a local law or a state law?
state law.
Well, how come the town is having to figure out whether it's abiding by the state law? Wouldn't the state do that?
No, the state puts it at the local level.
It does.
We just have to make sure that systems that get installed in our community comply with their regulations.
Like Mr. Hudson said, things seem to be getting worse. And as the population grows and the size of Cape Cod doesn't, one wonders whether the number of people per bedroom is an accurate reading for all of the numbers that these people arrive at. Because population density is going to mean occupancy density is going to go up. That's all I got. Thank you so much.
Anything else from the public on this topic?
Steve Trowbridge, 18 Bayview Road. Very quick question. Long-term guardrails, this is your job. You're obviously trying to confine and make sure that they follow them. You're doing that job. Question is, in 10, 15 years, they leave, they've made all their money, they've gone off to somewhere else, and now you've left it to a community within that structure, and who knows how well economically they're going to have and their budgetary flow as a home operation. Having come from a operation myself, this things can be put off forever and ever. Is there any structure that you guys could propose to maintain the quality that you're very happy with now that's in place, and how can you sustain that? There are guardrails that you can introduce to this permitting process to prolong the expectation that you have of its operation. Thank you.
And that generally is exactly what I was getting at when I asked about, and you mentioned you could give the fertilizer. And yes, you mentioned ownership and transfer of ownership. And that is you guys have been fantastic coming forward with everything that we've asked you to. I would be very comfortable if we knew it was going to be you guys in the ownership group from now until it gets hooked up to the sewer, but that's not a given.
We'll try this microphone. Hopefully it's better. Everybody can hear me? Great. Okay. So the most important thing to maintain and make sure is working is the IA system. And that is a contract that it goes forward into the future. There's no limit to that. It has to go forward. And investigating how that happens in terms of what would happen if someone didn't renew the contract. That's monitored by MASSTC, the new Barnstable County IA system. It's monitored by them electronically. There would be a message that goes to the town. And so that is something that will happen indefinitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
So just to bring a little clarity to that, the Barnstable County has a monitoring testing program. They look to make sure that all IA systems are under contract. They submit the reports and monitoring results. In addition to that, which if they are not in contract, we have the authority to follow up with enforcement on that and get them in contract. One of the conditions that we added to a potential approval was that we monitor effluent loading and look for nitrogen to meet the criteria that it's set to meet, and it allows the board or the health department to review the systems and see what we can do to get better treatment from them. So that's one of the final conditions, that if the board did approve this project, you have the ability to add.
These are the guidelines from the website.
Thank you.
And this is a copy of the planner's notes.
Thank you. I don't think I've looked at the fertilizer since
Fertilizer.
But we will review that and make sure that is in
But
compliance as well.
just a comment on the fertilizer is our fertilizer policy, I don't know if it's a regulation or...
It's not, it's a policy.
It's a policy. All right, I don't want to use the right word. Does not require it to be organic.
Right.
That's not in there. So they have gone above what is required. In other words, to cut down on the nitrogen. So just aware that our fertilizer policy does not require or even suggest organic. It just talks about when you should do it.
Carrie, I just want to bring up, and I know when I read it, I highlighted that point about it coming back to the board with the opportunity to change it in the future as one of the conditions of acceptance. Just how does that work exactly? And I kick him because I know I did highlight that.
So we would watch their testing limits and make sure that it's in compliance. And then if they weren't, we could request additional treatment components be added. And with this approval too, it's a provisional approval, so they'll be sending to the state as well.
Any other concerns, questions, comments from the public?
Beat it up already.
Okay. Anything else from the board?
No?
All right. I guess my one question, and you already said you were willing to do so. If we approve, deny, whatever the case is this evening, do we need to rewrite this to include that notification to the Board of Health on the fertilizer used? I would like to see that as part of it, if you're willing. Do we need to rewrite this, or can we verbally include that
And
this evening?
verbally, all of your, so what's provided to you is suggestions. It's, you can modify and change those as long as they're read into the decision
Okay.
and voted on by you all.
Yeah, all right.
And you are allowed to make a motion too as the chair if you, and then somebody can
Thank
say
you.
so moved.
Any-
If you're comfortable with the
any other
language that
questions,
you
concerns from the
want.
board? Okay.
So you were saying, you were talking to talk the fertilizer under option 2, is that what you were getting at?
Yep. Exactly. All right. If there are no further questions from the public or from the board, I would like to move to approve the application for 606 Route 28 with the following conditions. Property is restricted to a maximum of 60 bedrooms. No increase in habitable space or square footage without further review by the Board of Health. IA technology is required. A signed operation and maintenance agreement for the alternative system shall be submitted to the Health Department prior to release of the disposal system construction permit. The O&M agreement for the alternative system shall include a requirement for testing. This testing shall be conducted in accordance with the Board of Health protocol. This approval letter and conditions must be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. Provisional use system with a TN effluent limitation of less than 25 milligrams per liter. If the system cannot meet that less than 25 milligrams per liter TN in their first year of sampling, the board may require the system to be modified so that the target affluent limitations are met. That includes installing a second microfast 9.0 unit in series, a RUC filter, or any other approved method to further reduce nitrogen. That will be at the board's discretion. In addition, I would also like to include reporting to the Board of Health, or the Health Department, on the fertilizer used on the property each year.
Do you want to add the generator?
And an inclusion of the generator on site, where servicing of that generator will be passed down to the ownership board.
So that's the recommended motion. One of you can say so moved, and then we have a second and a vote.
So moved.
Second.
Vote?
Go ahead.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
By the way, guys, there's an error in your calculations on when you use the 2.5-bedroom one. I'll show it to you right now. I'm just telling you, just because if you're going to go... Oh, sure. I didn't want to get up there and talk about it. So in here, you're taking this number...
All right, we're going to move on with the rest of our meeting, so can you guys take it out, please? Carrie, can we save the minutes for last? Since
Yes,
we've taken a little while, let's move on with.
People who are here for stuff
Yes.
on to the next.
Fair enough. We are going to move on to new business, the variance request for 715 Main Street, requesting relief from Title 5, 310 CMR 15.203, System Sewage Design Flow Criteria for Restaurants.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for you guys being on the board and what you have to go through. So my name is Somil Patel. I'm here from 715 Harwich LLC. So as you might already know, we're going to be doing an addition over there. So the reason why I'm here tonight is we will be having a deli in the new addition. It's going to be a cold cut sandwich deli, so there's not going to be any cooking being done, no stove, no hood required. So just going to be cold cut sandwiches, deli salads, meats and cheese slice per pound. So we are asking for a variance because we won't be needing that much flow of water to the system. And the usage will be very minimal, which our engineer is saying the system can handle. So that's why we are proposing you grant us a variance so we can add a deli in there, which would be very appreciated by our customers.
So the minimum requirement for 1,000 gallons per day is based on like a full-service restaurant design. The state says food service is food service, so they don't see it any differently, but what they're proposing for operation is definitely within what they have for availability and flow.
Oh, and I would like to add, this is for takeout only, so we will not be serving, so there's no cleaning of plates, utensils, nothing like this to go, sandwiches.
Essentially what you guys are doing now in 7-Eleven minus the hot food.
Exactly. You got it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All right.
Any questions from the board?
Nope.
Yes, sir.
How big of an addition are you planning to make?
They had the,
How big?
the drawings
I don't have that number.
You added on upstairs with the apartments, but you're not.
No, so we are squaring off the building.
Okay.
Yeah, so like how it dents in right now, it's gonna be squared off. I think we're gonna be adding, I forgot the exact number, but it's like 900 square feet or something like that.
The one thing I had written down here was second floor. I know the restaurant numbers, that all checks off. Are we adding any apartments, or are we just expanding the lower area into that nail salon?
Yeah, just the ground floor. Nothing on second floor.
Okay.
I'd seen that. My main concern was the second floor. Was there going to be anything new going on there? Yeah, I looked at that pretty well.
Yeah.
And the system is sized to support the bedrooms and the proposed retail and deli operation downstairs. It just doesn't meet that minimum design requirement of 1,000 gallons, but when you do the square footage calculations, it meets everything that it needs to.
you have other questions?
No, that was it. Oh, one other question. How long is it going to take
Take what, sorry?
to square off the building?
Oh, so to complete the project? So we thinking about starting in February.
Okay.
That should be completed by like April, couple months.
Okay.
Ready to make a motion?
Any motion from the board? Or
Is this this was under new business, okay.
Yep, 7:15.
I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve the variance request for 715 Main Street, requesting relief from the Title 5, 310 CMR 15.203, System Sewage Design Flow Criteria for the restaurant.
Second?
Second.
Vote? Aye?
Aye.
Right?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, too.
And if we want to take C before B, because B we can discuss.
Okay.
Okay. See.
Moving on to the hearing request for Phase 2 sewer extension to Sherwood Road. Hello. Thank you guys for bearing with us as we got through everything else.
We've heard all the hubbub about it.
Isabel's happy to be here. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you want us to launch into.
Yeah, so if you want to just introduce yourself and just state why you're here and what you're asking for.
Sure. Okay, so I'm Brian Farkoff, and
I'm Jordan Brooks. This is Isabel.
and we received, we are property owners to Sherwood Road. I think it's Phase 2 of the sewer tie-in schedule, and we received a connection notice from the water department, I think in it was dated maybe June 30th. And it's actually, I don't have it with me, but it set a deadline of September 30th. And so we, there's a couple things going on, and we were trying to request from you. I know it's in your discretion to grant deferments, or I'm not sure if the proper term is a variance, because I know that's a term of art, or, here, but this has been inputted here as a hearing request, and I was hoping that we could just request the variance or the deferment, whatever it is you have the authority to do. But basically, we're looking for a deadline extension. We have a walkout basement in the back. We've been discussing the sewer tie-in with our neighbors for years, as everyone has on the street and the block. The estimates that we know our neighbors have paid to other vendors have in the range of $10,000 to $15,000. Our neighbors had warned us that the walkout basement presents a problem because we, of course, have a bathroom in the basement. And so we did have a vendor come out last year. They told us that we would probably need an e-pump to pump, in other words, we wouldn't be able to use a gravity pipe to accomplish this goal. And then we got an updated estimate from them this year, and after the extension that we, thank you for granting, and it's closer to 28,000. And so, there's some financial issues on the family front. I've been out of work since January from the federal government, and so we were hoping for, something like a year-long extension to budget for this. But I don't know if that's the subject of the hearing.
That is the subject,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
So you're
Wasn't
looking
sure if
for
there was
an
another
extension.
hearing.
Yeah, for connection.
Okay, so in other words, what we're just requesting now is a hearing?
What you're requesting is them to approve an extension for connection.
This is the hearing. Okay.
This is the hearing.
Perfect. We were confused with it.
Okay. I'm happy to answer questions. We submitted some written materials. We did apply for the Aqua Fund. We don't fit neatly into any of the financial hardship applications that exist. We don't occupy the space full-time for the year-round, and so we couldn't apply for the regular financial hardship application. The Aqua Fund is helpful. I think that we need to update them with the new estimate that we received, but otherwise they were pretty, flexible as far as that went. But even making payments on, a $28,000 loan, I think we would need more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my first question, I know you said you're not living in the space year-round. Are you renting it in the summer months?
We rented in the summer, yeah. We moved here in 2020. We bought the house in 2020 and moved here in 2020. Brian's mom was sick. She lived in Boston. She passed away. We lived here for about 2 years and then had to move back to Washington full-time.
Essentially, the federal government, transferred my home office to Washington, so we moved to D.C. And we wanted to keep the house. So
ideally, we would love to be here, but we're not here.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, that's why.
So we do rent it in the summer to help pay the mortgage.
Rent it, yeah. So we've been doing that for 3 seasons now.
Okay. With that in mind, are you looking for a full year extension? Would it be possible to have this in the works or planned, kind of by the next rental season, do you think?
That's a good question. I think planned for sure. I think part of the question is if they can, when they can do it too. So I think since it's October, trying to get it done before then, we could try. I think we're hoping you have a new job sooner rather than later.
So if we would go ahead with the year extension, what is the possibility to that say, like every quarter, you give us, the health department, an update where you are with getting that done?
Oh, we'd be happy to do that.
Happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be happy.
I mean, we wouldn't mind getting a second opinion, and I've reached out to,
On the quote.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's probably, they gave us a couple options, but installing a pump, I think,
It's gonna be
inside, there's like this option of installing the pump inside the house, but we would have to dig up a finished basement to do it, so I think it would have to be the e-pump outside. And so I think another vendor is gonna say the same thing, but maybe they could do it for cheaper. I don't know, they don't give like itemized estimates.
It may be more cost-effective to do the single bathroom on the internal pump versus doing your whole house on the external.
So, yeah, I think
we should
that's
ask
what
about that, yeah.
That's what I meant to just refer to. So we asked about that, and they said that to do it, they would have to
Dig up the entire
dig
basement.
up, put it in physically in the basement. Our basement has, it's finished, so they would have to dig up the concrete and put it somewhere near our washer dryer area, and I don't really know. They didn't recommend that because it would disrupt the entire basement.
I would go and get a couple of opinions just to make sure that you're getting the same feedback from whoever the contractors you're working with, just to be
Okay.
safe.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I know, sweetheart.
All right. So if we can do a 1 year with quarterly updates on progress. Do we have a motion from the board?
I have one question. Are you renting it now?
Yes, and right now, in October?
Yeah.
No, we're there.
What was the
now.
question? I'm sorry.
We just rent it for a few weeks in the summertime.
Yeah.
So you're not renting it?
Right this moment. No, just seasonally.
Right. Yeah.
We're there as much as we can.
It's like 12, it's probably like,
10
I
weeks
mean,
a
it
year.
depends on, it's probably like 10 weeks
10
of
weeks in the
renting.
summer. Yeah. I know, sweetheart.
You want to make a recommendation?
I recommend you grant request
For the sewer extension.
1 year extension with quarterly updates.
Second.
Vote. Aye.
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 Thank you all. And to make those quarterly updates, would we just email Stephanie and
yeah.
Carrie? Okay, wonderful.
And just, can I ask a clarifying question? So in the, well, thank you.
Sweetie,
And
thank you very
it
much.
does, so the regulation does say that it's, $200 a day. Would that defer this penalty?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there's no, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so
Granting the
much.
extension, no penalty.
Thank you so much.
Make that clear.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
I don't even know what we did. Well,
Why has that gone up so much?
All right.
Yeah, that seems
Should we move back to minutes of the previous meeting?
We'll get back to minutes.
Yes.
minutes.
Minutes of the previous meeting for September 16th, 2025. Anything on the minutes
I didn't see anything.
that need to be adjusted?
I didn't see anything. What was that? I make a motion that we accept the minutes from September 16th.
Second.
Vote. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Against the,
Now we have new business B, the fee schedule.
Yep. Proposed fee schedule changes. Vote to accept or deny. I take this under consideration. Those fee schedule changes are listed in section VB. It's a separate handout in your sheets. Any concerns or questions from the board regarding these proposed fee schedule changes?
So the intent was to just kind of clean up some fees that we don't even issue, and then add a few that we do, and clean up our septic disposal permits to make it a little bit easier to follow, as well as bring things up to be a little bit more even-keeled for our license holders across the board.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it vary from what usually was? So, body work, that's gone quite a bit, huh?
Yeah, so that would be like your tattoo parlor. So they have,
Quite an increase, huh?
well, they're going, so we wanted them to, the body work and body art, we wanted them to be comparable because we charge the body art establishments, so we wanted the body work establishments to match.
Looking at this second page on that, some of these are, to me, different than what we normally see. The subsurface disposal of sewage, those things in there, now I see where they're crossed out, and then conventional gravity system proposed is 200. What, I mean, is this for the individual homes? What, I don't know what.
So these are for septic systems, commercial or residential. It's based on size.
So a single home, all right, that had gravity system, is that $200 a year for what?
No, that's just a permit fee, a single
All right,
permit fee.
got it. All right, okay, all right. Proposed fee, yeah, I wasn't thinking of it like that. Yes, you're right, all right, okay. All right.
No, I'm just wondering, the reason for the increase is because the inspectors are getting more money, or how's that working?
Well, I mean, salaries do go up, but this is just to kind of, there wasn't a lot of rhyme or reason to our permit schedule before, so we just wanted to kind of put things together and make them comparable to each other. So we're not charging one type of establishment this reduced fee and then another establishment, because they require the same credentialing and permit review, so.
All right.
Any motion from the board regarding the proposed fee schedule changes?
I make a motion that we accept the proposed fee schedule changes, schedule changes.
Second.
And a vote?
Aye.
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 All right, so that took care of that. Did that.
Moving on then to report from the health director.
So we are excited to announce that we will be hosting an AmeriCorps service partner starting the week of October 27th. Our member will be working on building education for our garden in the 2026 season, as well as creating a planting plan and working in the garden. Update on the People's Fridge. Our community fridge offered 350 prepared meals from Food for Kids this summer. 992 meals as far as my last update through Family Table Collaborative, and an estimated 300 pounds of produce grown by the People's Garden, as well as donations from other community gardeners. Donations to help fund the fridge came from Harwich Chamber of Commerce and the Christmas tree raffle Cindy put on in December of '24. And then just another side note that is not on the director's report, we do have our emergency preparedness fair happening this Saturday at the community center from 9 to 12. So come out and get all of the information that you want about how to plan for an emergency in the town of Harwich.
The only thing I'm going to add is, did everybody see the email regarding us
Emails.
getting emails? I didn't know how to word that. Did you get that, the emails, about, we're getting emails?
Yes.
We're getting an email address, I should put it that way.
Okay,
Yeah,
very good.
yeah. All right.
Now, tomorrow afternoon, what's the,
That's the open meeting law.
Yeah, the first one, I think, for the email addresses is Thursday. I think the first one is from 2 to 3:30, and they have one that night, and then one...
6 to 7:30, and then, yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah,
And
there
then
was,
one like Friday.
maybe that's the one that's late at night.
No, there's a Thursday,
Is that late
6
at
to
night?
7:30.
Yeah.
Because that's the only one I'm going to be able to make, so I don't think that's definitely on there.
All right.
All right, moving on then to permits, new licenses listed below.
How did I miss?
Any questions regarding the permits listed?
No, I didn't have any when I looked at it, but I don't remember now.
There was not many,
I'm going to say no.
just a handful.
Yeah.
now, I do have a question. Now, I'm confused now. This is a new septic installer, like the moniker. What does that actually mean?
So you're approving his license to install septic systems in the town of Harwich.
Okay, all right.
Any motion from the board?
I move to accept the new permits.
As printed?
Second?
Printed.
Oh, that's printed. Second?
Vote?
Aye.
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 And I don't know if you want to just throw in public comment, just because we bypassed that, just to get it
No.
read in.
Yes.
Is anybody from the public here that still wants to comment? Please.
Yeah, let's go home.
We gave them ample opportunity, at least. I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure of that.
Yeah.
Just didn't
Okay.
want to overlook it.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Seconded?
Vote?
Aye.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye? Aye.
All right.